couple days away from the actual NBA playoffs kicking off. The play-in is almost over. We've already got some major landmines in the NBA playoffs, and particularly the NBA playoff best ball streets, which is what we're here to talk about. And I am joined by special guest Mike Zakarian from Team Hold. We're going to break down all this chaos and injuries and latest news and what it means for your NBA playoff best ball drafts on Underdog Fantasy. See if we can win the $50,000 in the dance. Let's do it. All right, Mike, thank you for joining. I was telling you before the show, it can be a little difficult to find people who are interested in grinding the nuances of NBA playoff best ball drafts. So we're very honored to have you around here. And let me tell you, I need someone to talk me off the ledge after the last couple nights. And I'm wearing a Warriors hat in
R.I.P.
in memory. Yeah, in memory of the era. But man, some chaos in these NBA streets. How are you feeling after the first 2 nights of the play-in?
Man, like a couple weeks ago, I was feeling pretty sharp about most of my exposure, and now, God, it's funny. The wing position has just gotten thinned out so badly now that I don't know if anybody's feeling good. Like, I don't know if there's any roster construction because, like, right, Jimmy Butler and Zion were like the 2 saves, right? Like, hey, maybe you just get 1 round of a competitive guy late in the draft, cool, and then if they go on a run, even better, right? But now you don't have that safety net, and you were probably taking those guys as the safety net for someone like Giannis or Kawhi, who we don't know if we're going to have them either. It's just nuts. It's like 4 of like a pretty thin position anyways.
It is really funny you say that because I specifically remember looking back on my teams over the course of this week and having teams that exactly outline like what you said. Zion was my kind of wing du jour. The Pelicans were one of my late teams. And again, I was telling you before the show, it's even more triggering as someone who's been drafting these teams and put together kind of a plan of, I think the Lakers are going to beat the Pelicans, but that's actually bad for them because they're going to play the Nuggets. So
Right.
I want the Pelicans because they're going to play the Thunder. I think worst case scenario, they might get a game or 2 right off the Thunder. So give me 5 or 6 games of Zion as a cheap wing. I'm all in, right? I think it's possible they could have beat the Thunder. Wouldn't pick them, but I think it was in the range of outcomes that they could beat the Thunder. So that's perfect. And then the guy goes down. But I'm looking at other teams where I'm like, maybe I got sniped on Zion and you had to scrape together, right? OG Anunoby and PJ Washington and those wings. But now it doesn't feel as bad. And I almost wonder if this, some teams had to die for other teams to thrive in your portfolio if we didn't kind of stumble into a little bit of that kind of situation.
Yeah, I've actually gone so far into talking myself that everything's going to be okay that I was like, well, what if the Pelicans do win? Because I also have a lot of Brandon Ingram.
Right.
It's like maybe Brandon Ingram and CJ are the guys because I was drafting them early when I thought they were going to be a 6 seed or even maybe a 5 seed, and I was kind of excited about. I didn't think they could really go to the Western Conference Finals, but I thought they could win around. And for like a late, actually it was kind of like the Knicks were kind of like this for a while, although now Jalen Brunson has surged up. But you could get that whole Knicks team like pretty late. But yeah, I don't know. I actually want your thoughts on, because this is where I pivoted like last week on this when I started getting nervous about the Pelicans. I feel like no one trusts the Magic at all, and I feel like if you do think that they have a shot at getting out of the first round, that kind of can alleviate some of that wing pressure. Because really, you could. I was taking them almost as like the poor man's Kings from last year, where like you can just get Sabonis and Fox. It's like the entire offense, and for the most part, that's the case with Paolo and Franz, and it's in a crap position and against the Cavs, who like I don't trust Cleveland.
Yeah, they're definitely. I like the poor man's version because it's certainly not Fox and Sabonis, but they don't have to be because of, like you said, it's at the wing position. I really only need one of them. Mm-hmm. If they sneak by into the second round, now you're like, get a game off Boston. Just get a game off Boston. Let Paolo fill that, or Franz fill that wing position for me in the second round, because that's how I've been thinking about those teams those players. It's probably why I'm a big reason why I'm so heavy on the Knicks, not necessarily because of the positional thing, but because I can get useful scores out of a bunch of guys, especially if it goes any series goes deep, but I'm planning ahead for them, right? And that's what I would be thinking about with the Magic or the Cavs. The Cavs don't have the wings, but they do have maybe you need a big. They got two of those guys that go later.
Right.
Whereas the first round, I think people, forget about this. So if you haven't played the dance, the structure of the tournament is super important for these kinds of conversations, right? You draft in a 6-person group and 2 teams advance out of that. And so, especially in this first round, like you said, so someone's going to have Giannis. Let's say you don't have Giannis. Someone's going to have Giannis. Someone's going to have Kawhi. Someone's going to have Jimmy Butler. Somebody probably has Zion. If you avoid all of those guys, you already have decent odds to advance. You just need a little bit of luck in your favor in the first round. So I don't worry too much about the first round. I'm not drafting my whole team's not going to be Drew and KCP and
right.
But I don't worry about it too much. But the second round is where the thing that you're talking about, I think, comes in big time, because it's 1 out of 10 advance in that second round. You're going to have a couple of probably dead teams, right, that advance, guys who lost in the first round, but you're going to have some really good teams, and you got to get first.
Yeah.
But then I do start to think, are the Magic or the Cavs or whoever in play? That was some of the reasons for Jimmy and Zion. What if they beat the Knicks? They got 7. What if they beat the Knicks? And so I do struggle with the Magic from that, because maybe I'm being too small brained. I struggle to see maybe a game off Boston. Right?
I know.
I think that's a ceiling, and that's tough. It's tough.
It is tough. I know. I go back and forth too, because I'm a Celtics fan, and I was like, well, the Magic really did give them problems all year. But I'm like, it's the playoffs are different, and I think they're going to struggle to score. So I guess almost the counter to that argument, or another example of that, are the Pacers, who with every day that goes by, in my mind, I feel like this is at least going to be a long first round series, but I think they got a real shot at winning this series too. Because it sounds like, Giannis is definitely missing game 1. Game 2's on Tuesday. I can't imagine if they ruled him out 4 days in advance. There's no way he's playing 2 days later. And so then Siakam all of a sudden looks like a pretty juicy, whether you stack him with Hallie or just one off him. And they don't have to play the Celtics in the second round if they get through. So you think, I don't know, maybe the Pacers can have a long series in the second round too. So that's kind of the other spot that's gotten me pretty excited. Because I started hammering Siakam quite a bit.
I think Siakam, right now, prisoner of the moment, and of course you brought it up too. I think Siakam right now might be the best pick in now. It playoff basketball is weird because it's so team, so there's not really the one. But if I had to break it down that simply and that binary, I think I would say Siakam is the best pick in all of these drafts right now, given cost, given positional issues, given his project, he's going to score fantasy points too. It's not just he's not Max Strus, he's not something like that. So, and then the Giannis and the Bucks thing, this is one of those, I'm really high on the Knicks, and I kind of expected that would be a little bit different than the field. The field doesn't really give them a lot of credit. I think the field overvalues the Randall loss. I'm not sure that it even matters, honestly, in the playoffs. But I get, Sixers, right? I get, even if it was the Heat, I get it. I can't believe the market's love still for the Bucks. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills on the Bucks. Did no one watch the regular season? Hey, this team fired their coach halfway through the season because they were the 2 seed in the East, but they were underperforming wildly. Plus, minus, all that kind of stuff. It was the luckiest 2 seed we've ever seen, essentially, in where they were sitting back then. They fired their coach, hired Doc Rivers, got worse, got worse with Doc, and now the single most important player besides Jokic or whatever in the league is hurt and not playing. And nobody's really even giving the Pacers a chance, it feels like to me. And so I'm just hammering the Pacers. I bet the Pacers to win that series.
Hell yeah.
So that's my take on that.
No, today's the first day that I've noticed that Bucks have been falling. I saw Giannis start to fall a little bit yesterday and the day before as the news started trickling out where you could get him. I think I had one lineup that had a Jokic Giannis start, which I was like, I guess I'm just going to do this for a share of it. But now I'm seeing Dame start to fall and Middleton really fall. But I think that happened 4 or 5 days too late. And I've got a few, I had a few builds where I was like, okay, let's just get, if what if like, Dame, Middleton, and Portis like get you into, or I'm sorry, not all three of them, but like you could get Giannis, Dame, and then grab Portis later. To get you three, like just in case that series does go long, Giannis comes back. And then I wonder if that's a unique thing to have Giannis advance. But that was like 2 weeks ago. And at this point, I don't feel good about any of those. Like I'd much rather play the Pacers side of it. I really would.
That's my take too. We actually had a great conversation this morning in the Spike Week Discord. For anybody watching, it's totally free. There's a link in the description. You can join. And we were talking through specifically like the Bucks. And my take was what you just said. I said, I understand why someone would say, look, Giannis is falling, right? Dame is falling. I can find a way to get through round one. Maybe Giannis comes back earlier than people think, and Wing is so bad I could use his scorer still in 4 or 5 games. Like I get all of that. But to me, the greater edge is in the market's still not realizing that the Pacers but day by day have a better chance to advance. And I can get 2 rounds out of a Pacers team that's super cheap and really consolidated. It's 3 dudes, and they all happen to play guard, wing, big. If we include Miles Turner as a big guy,
and he's free. Miles Turner is free.
Yeah, if you're worried about Siakam and Halliburton, Halliburton's gotten around pick 30, I think.
Yeah, he's moved up a little bit,
and Siakam's in like the mid 30s. So if you're like worried about price, it's like, well, you could technically skip one of them and just bolt on Miles Turner in the second to last round or whatever, and you get your Pacers. Look, I love the Knicks, but the Knicks are not exactly a juggernaut matchup in the second round. Neither would the Sixers be. So that could be another long series. Even if you don't think this team is like going to beat Boston and make it to the finals, none of us do. This can be a way to get your Boston there, or get your Nuggets there, or whatever. Get the, God forbid, the Thunder play like the King. The Kings win tomorrow or something. You want to get Shea through to the next round. These are the teams that you can do it. And so I do prefer the Pacers side of it. And like, even though I see the Bucks, the upside of a falling Giannis.
Yeah, I'm really interested in those, like when you can get those 2-man stacks too that like help elevate your like bigger, like your 3-man or your 4-man that you're hoping to get into the finals. Like where, like we're saying, like you could just easily click Halliburton, Siakam. I was doing Paulo Franz for a little bit. I'm not doing that as much anymore, but like just even like Durant and Booker, I know that's a little bit more of a high value one, and that makes me a little bit nervous. But I've done some like Thunder Suns builds where I was like, well, man, like you just said, if the Thunder, I did not expect them to have like this sweet spot that they're in now. Like all of the Thunder exposure, both like looks better for them advancing to the second round, but maybe not as good for your teams advancing, because it does feel like they should smoke whoever they play. But if you've got those little 2-mans that help boost your 4-man stack through, I kind of like that. How have you been, like, do you have a preference in how you like stack them up to move through? Like, do you have like a 4-4? I don't know, some people do 4-4, like 3-2-2. I don't know, do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference, but I can pull up just super quickly. We do in our little draft IQ tool that we have on Spike Week. Oh boy, this is zoomed out. It breaks down like how often you draft each kind of structure. If I go to exposures here, I should have had this loaded, but I think my most popular one was actually 4-3-3, if I recall correctly, but it's a lot of permutations off of that. I should go to NBA.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So like 4 of one team. And then I think if I had it's not even on here, but 4-2-2, 4-3-3, like 4-4-2, like these kinds of things are my general favorites. And it's a lot of 4 from one team. That's my bet on that. And then I'm going to kind of spray and pray on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, I like that. I've been doing a lot because last year I did mostly like 4-3 and then maybe like a couple one-offs or something like that. But this year I've been doing a lot of 4-2-2-2. Like if I get 4 Nuggets and then I'm just going to spray a couple Eastern Conference teams and like hope somebody gets through.
That's where the Magic and teams like that can really come in a lot handy, because you can push your Sixers team through. You can push because you get a 6 or 7 game series out of them against the Cavs, and they did their job. Sometimes, especially later in the draft calendar so when this contest first opened, I'm more willing to just be like, I'm not worried about anything other than getting who I think the best picks and the best teams are at their prices right now. I'll let the chips fall where they may. Now, right, everybody knows kind of the seedings and the matchups, and now we got injuries, and it's making things even tougher. So now I am more like this is when I would take the Magic. Like right now is when I would take the Magic, as opposed to, when the contest first opened, it was like you could get anybody you wanted.
Right. I found today specifically, I think I've done like 3 or 4 today. Today has been the hardest day to draft. Like I think it's really tough to make good teams right now, unless you're just taking like, I think it's probably pretty easy to put together a 4-man of the Clippers. Like if you want to you want to get all the Clippers, I think that's pretty easy right now. Outside of that, it's really like Jalen Brunson has moved up so much in ADP, and that was kind of how you were able to build like a good West team with an East team that has a shot. That's how you had to do it, was through the Knicks. But now you got to take Brunson in like the late 2nd round, early 3rd round in order to do it. So I found it to be like pretty hard today. I had some of my grosser teams were drafted today.
I think that's what a lot of people will probably feel. Then that is what's frustrating for me right now is the Knicks. That was like my approach was like, I can build a team that's going to get the 2 or the 3 in the East with, I mean, I've mentioned this a ton of times, like on every piece of content. Like, I don't think people that are just catching on to the NBA realize these guys are going to play every minute of all of these games. Like Dante DiVincenzo did not leave the floor in a meaningless game on the last game of the regular season that went to overtime. Like this is just, Tibbs is not taking these guys out, right? And so Brunson's going to go get 50 something every night. DiVincenzo's going to get 40 something every night. Hart's going to get 40 something every night. OG is going to get 18, and because he doesn't make any shots ever anymore or do anything. But these guys are going to play and put up useful points. Plus, they're going to be on the opposite side of the bracket of the Celtics. So it gives them a shot to make a run or even make the finals. The quicker that dries up, the harder all this becomes. So did you find yourself doing anything like with some different stacks of teams that you were doing before to like get some, going down to the Suns, now I'm going to use Nurk and Beal or whatever, or Grayson instead?
I did a lot of that.
Yeah, or are you going more to the Magic, Pacers?
I've been because now Paolo's starting to go up because everybody realized that there's no wings left, and I've drafted him so much that I was like, I don't know if it makes sense for me to be getting him here now. Like maybe now's the time to do some weird stuff. I actually started messing around with I forget what team. I don't think it was the Nuggets because I don't think I got 4 with them. Maybe it was at the Thunder where I got 4 of the Thunder, and then I was like, okay, if the Thunder make the finals, can I just get like one meaningful guy like on the opposing team? Because then that'll count. That'll count for points, right? So I think I did like 4 Thunder, and then I maybe grabbed a couple other guys in the West, and then was just like one-offs of East teams that I thought had a shot to get to the finals. And that feels terrible. Like you look at that and you're like, this is a bad construction. But I was like, that seemed more useful than I was like, I don't know. Do I really want 4 Pacers, right? Am I really? Do we need Aaron Nesmith? Like,
I had to put Aaron Nesmith in the rankings last night, and it made my stomach turn. Like, this is where we're at. Like, I have to consider whether to draft Aaron Nesmith. Shout out to all my Obi Toppin in the regular season best ball this year.
Right,
shout out to Obi getting Wally pipped by Aaron Nesmith. But as you were saying that, it was kind of like a little bit of light bulb. That I think what you were saying, like it feels uncomfortable and it looks a little bit gross, but could be one of the best things to do right now. And I was thinking about it through the lens of Boston, right? So we know how the Boston prices aren't going anywhere, right? We know that that's happening. So what if we do something with 1, maybe max 2 Boston guys and spray and pray a bunch of our Western Conference guys? I know this sounds like, oh, what are you doing? But give me the team that I can get. Even if it's like just Derek White, right? And I know that sounds like, is Derek White going to be the optimal Celtic? It's like probably not. But we're also playing a game that like I got to get there with this weird combination. Like if the Celtics and the Thunder run through each side, you're not really going to want that many of those guys. So that's how you get your Pacers, your Magic, your whatever. Maybe you think the Lakers can push the Nuggets and you want to, use LeBron or AD on this team and just be like, I'm going to find somehow to get 4 Thunder and Derek White through, and they're going to play in the finals, and nobody's going to have Thunder and Celtics because that it was impossible to get it, or it wasn't even available for most of the draft period, right? And then they had easy runs to the final. So like I started thinking about when you're saying that, like maybe this is the time to do some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that was one of the ones that I got. So it was like I got Shea at 5. I think I went Shea and then Porzingis, and then just drafted Thunder the rest of the way. And I was like,
that's
okay,
pretty nice.
Yeah, so I was like, Porzingis is my one off. I think I did grab like a Siakam and Apollo in that one because I was pretty thin on wings, because I think J-Dub was like my first wing and only wing for a while. So yeah, I do. I mean, I think it's worth, if you are doing, I don't think it's probably the optimal way to draft. I don't think that should be like, but if you're doing a bunch of drafts, I like having like 3 or 4, dart throws like that. That are a little bit different, especially right now. Cause I think if you like, as you can see, right, the contest was between like 30 and 40% full for like a month. And then all of a sudden it's like 70%. So everybody's drafting right now. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested in trying it. It feels gross, but I'm interested in throwing a couple darts.
The gross stuff can work. My best NFL team last year had both Kenny Pickett and Cole Turner on it, and that's about as gross as it gets, and it still somehow succeeded. But I think your point about like especially right now, like the market's going to get more efficient, right? The people are piling in now because most people aren't like us who are like thinking about the NBA playoffs 2 months ago when the contest opened. They're like, okay, now I feel comfortable, right? Getting in. And we've had major injuries, and like Steph Curry was still getting drafted. Now he's gone, right? But he's gone and he's not getting backfilled by anybody because people still aren't interested in the Kings, right? Now people are less interested in the Heat when they would have been more interested, but Jimmy's gone. And now they're like, okay, if they don't have Jimmy and they're playing Boston, do I really want any Miami? It's like we're removing guys out of the player pool, but we're not adding anybody back in. So it's getting tougher, which means I think you got to do these things that are like, look, like you asked about what's your optimal thing. It's like, well, if I had it, my druthers, I'd give me 4 Boston and 6 guys from give me 6 guys from the different teams in the West. But like those are just physically impossible to do right now. So we gotta galaxy brain something to try to win,
Yeah. You were saying we haven't added anybody. I have been clicking DeMar DeRozan today in round 10.
Ooh, spicy.
I just was like, this Heat team sucks, man. And like, and if Jimmy's not gonna be there, I mean, listen, every time I think they're dead, they win a game. But I would, if I have enough dead Jimmy and Zion lineups, I might as well have a few dead DeRozan lineups. So, but with the wing position being so thin, even if it's just like, I don't know, 4 or 5 games of DeRozan, I mean, maybe he's a scorer in this gross wing position. So we threw a couple darts out there.
I think you could draft him on Celtics teams.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like, but again, that's this time of year, right? A month ago, I would not be advocating for sacrificing my guy in the first round. But like, how do I get Boston through? Right? Okay, you do the Jaylen Brown Porzingis double tap. You're chasing points already.
Right.
Like the moment you tap those 2 guys, you're chasing points already. How do you get more points out of them? Well, it's probably DeRozan goes nuts twice in this series, and they steal 2, and this series goes 6. Now you're using DeRozan's score, and you picked up 2 Celtics guys going 6 that added, right? Next thing you know, you have Siakam or whatever on this team, and poof, you have a good round 1 lineup, and you got your Celtics through. Yeah. So
it is crazy with the Celtics because, like you were saying, you're chasing points with JB and Porzingis. I feel like no matter where you draft the Celtics, who should be like the favorites to get through, you're kind of chasing points because that Tatum click at 2 is tough only because, and shout out John Jackson, John Boy Beats. He had brought this up in our chat where he was kind of like, you put the Celtics in the finals against anybody, who is Tatum outscoring in those matchups, right? And it's like, maybe Ant, maybe he outscores Ant. I like maybe SGA a couple of times, but like, I think the favorite's probably SGA, the favorite's Luka, the favorite's Jokic. So it's like
by
really,
a lot.
Yeah, right. And so it's really, and it's not like that like that second round pick is so advantageous compared to where Jokic is picking at 1, right? That you're like making up that ground. So it's really tough to like build, especially now, those Tatum squads, which now you're seeing SGA or Luka go 2 and 3 a couple of times ahead of Tatum. And then it's a little bit of an easier click at 4, but at 2, it's really tough. And then it seems crazy to take Luka or SGA over Tatum at 2 because you're like, the Celtics path forward is just so much cleaner than those guys.
I think that is the toughest part of this whole contest. And it's the toughest part every year because you want to bet on the best teams, but the best teams often play the fewest games. And I need games to score fantasy points. And then this year in particular, everything you said is true. The Celtics are the worst pick from a fantasy point scoring expectation at every spot they go.
Yeah.
Usually by a lot, like a ton. I mean, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are going to massively outscore Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis, and they go 15, 20 picks after they do, right? And so Halliburton and Siakam, even though, Halliburton hasn't been quite as good, but et cetera, et cetera. AD, I mean, there's a reason why AD's been going. So people love the Lakers, and Anthony Davis dropped 60-something fantasy points in every single game. Jaylen Brown may not score 45 in a single playoff game.
I know.
And he's going in the first round. So there's that weird dynamic. Have you been doing anything are you still just sucking it up and taking I got to draft some Celtics because they're such overwhelming favorites? Or do you often more lean into look, I'm going to build a lot of teams where the Celtics need to lose for me to win this thing?
Yeah, I think I've been more West heavy with the team that I think is going to get to the finals. My core stack has been more West. I just today, I think, was the first time that I clicked JB Porzingis back-to-back, and I did it 3 or 4 times, but I had been leaning Embiid over him. I was just kind of I think I would rather have this has the probably the highest likelihood of getting knocked out in the first round, but also the highest ceiling. If they do get through, all of a sudden now the Sixers are looking at a run to the Eastern Conference Finals. And what I liked about taking Embiid at 5 is Maxey wasn't getting drafted too high at that point when I was doing it. I was taking Embiid at either 5 or 6, but you could take him, you get Maxey a few rounds later, and then you can just, I was taking Melton late. You could take, Oubre or Tobias late. There was just a lot of ways to fill that team out if you wanted to. And what I liked about it too, if you take him 5, I was turning around and pairing him up with Ant. And then I was okay, now I've got 2 base, high scorers. They're the alpha guy from a team that could make a finals run. So I'm just, that felt like it had way more upside than taking JB and Porzingis, who again probably put up 35 to 40 a night, which is fine, but not when they're your first 2 picks, because then I think if you do JB Porzingis, you have to do KD Booker the next time around, because you have to, and then you just got to hope the Suns go on a run.
Yeah, I think, and then you have the weird dynamic of, is this what everybody's doing? Because if you're taking the Celtics, those people just look. I'm typecasting people. Sorry. If you're loading up Celtics, and then you see the likes of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker available to you, you're this seems so. Oh, and then you're they're playing Minnesota, the Timberwolves.
Right.
You're just give me these guys. And then you probably scroll a little bit further before they're playing the Nuggets. Then you're oh, look, LeBron and Anthony Davis are available to me.
Right.
That seems like a good, and so I can see the teams that these people have drafted when they do that. And I think that sounds like a pretty good team too. But you start to think about how to win this team. Bobby says, if you're drafting Celtics now, I don't know that you're necessarily playing for lesser finishes. I think that there are some ways that you could do it. But I think if you're drafting these Celtics teams, you're doing the thing what you outlined, where I'm almost playing for not using my Celtics until the conference finals. How do I build a team where I want all the other Celtics teams to get wiped out? Yeah. I want to be the last remaining Celtic team, because when I get to the finals, I want it to be all the guys, I want it to be Knicks, I want it to be Suns, and they lose.
Right.
I want it to be Thunder, Celtics, but I got there to the final somehow, and everybody else lost because they faded the Celtics on their team. How do you do that?
I've done this a couple times too, where I've done a Tatum one-off at 2 or 3, where I was okay, now I need a 4-man in the West. So it needs to be the Timberwolves. You could do it for a little while. I can't do it anymore, but it was pretty easy to get Ant late in the second round up until last week. And so I would just be all right, well, hopefully, if the Celtics get there, hopefully I have the high score from the Celtics while I have 4 Timberwolves or 4 Suns or whoever. So I was doing it that way. I was actually just pulling up my exposure, and I have 22% on Tatum right now, and I think I've done 100 of them so far. And then, but after that, it's just kind of 15% White, 13% Horford, 9% Brown, 5% Porzingis. So I have been my East teams. It's just all Knicks, Pacers, and Magic, which is just so gross.
Isn't that the beauty of this contest, though? That's me. My highest exposure players are New York Knicks. I'm from freaking St. Louis. I have no interest in the Knicks. Quite frankly, I don't really like the Knicks very much. And I do like Jalen Brunson, but like this is like no fandom involved here. I'm a North Carolina college basketball fan. Zion is my highest exposure player in the West. RIP, of course, to those teams. But I think that is what makes it fun is like, how the hell do I navigate this weird Celtics thing? And it's a bizarre Celtics, conundrum. Every single draft you get into is this team is an overwhelming, massive favorite to make it. How do I navigate around that given everyone knows that and everyone's drafting as such? And so I think, we've outlined a lot of those different things. Is there anything else like maybe like upset picks or we talked about Pacers, we talked Knicks, Sixers, anything like that? Are there any other things where you're like, I really like this team to win the first round, make a run or something like that, and we can use them in our drafts?
This shouldn't be it shouldn't be an upset, but they've been like undervalued this entire since the tournament opened. No one is giving any respect to the Timberwolves, and you can draft them like whenever you want. Nobody wants to click Rudy. I think they run into the problem because they don't have any useful wings. So like that's really tough. But I mean, you can get them whenever you want them. Like Naz Reid and Conley are both right at the end of the draft. Nobody wants to click Rudy or Cat. And so I do think
Gobert. I love Gobert's price in these drafts. It's crazy.
And I know Phoenix is a tougher matchup, but that should actually make them a better pick because now your title favorite team, your title favorite stack is going to be in a longer series. Also, I mean, Nurkic kind of like didn't play defense this year. Like Rudy should have. I'm not saying Rudy's gonna like be going for 20 and 10, but I mean he should be getting like 15 boards a game, no problem, in this series. So I do think Minnesota, and I'm not a Timberwolves fan. I don't really enjoy clicking them, but I think that's like a pretty undervalued team right now.
It's bad that we're disagreeing so much because that was one of my, I did an updated, I'm going to do another one after the play-in is final. I might do it tonight just because I'm not sure that the games with the injuries, they might have mattered if Jimmy and Zion were healthy, but I'm not sure they matter too much anymore. But I did an updated playoff bracket. I picked Minnesota to beat Phoenix and had a little soliloquy during there, just being like, look, I understand 3-0 during the regular season against them. I understand Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. I understand all of that. But if you give me an opportunity to benefit greatly from fading this Suns team, like I am all in on that. This team doesn't play defense.
Right.
They don't rebound. Nurkic is like a fun fantasy producer. I drafted him a bunch again during the regular season because he plays a lot and he has 30 rebound games because nobody else on that team has. They don't rebound for shit. Like none of those guys are interested in rebounding. They turn the ball over like crazy, and this benefits them a little in the Minnesota matchup because of Rudy playing drop and everything, but they shoot a bunch of contested mid-range jumpers. They don't get to the rim and they don't shoot 3-pointers and they don't get to the free throw line. And so it's like they play basketball the worst possible way you could play it to win in playoff games, but they just got two dudes who can sometimes that doesn't matter. But like, if I can bet against that, like, dude, I'm in. I'm totally in. I think Minnesota does. I think Minnesota does win this one, even though kind of that's not the public consensus.
No, and listen, if Phoenix has been the most like inconsistent team this entire year, outside of like the last 10 games of the regular season, and if they really did figure it out, congrats to them. Everybody's job is safe in Phoenix then. But I don't know. I'm down to go the other way on it. I was saying this morning that I feel like this has the best chance, or I saw Bobby's comment too, for this to go 7 without having a close game. Like I could see them all being blowouts too.
100%. KD and Book they shoot 90% from the mid range, and Minnesota can't. Minnesota looks like the kids on Saturday morning at the Y trying to run offense. That's how one. And then the next game, Minnesota gets 28 offensive rebounds, and KD can't make any of those. Yeah, and it's just I could absolutely see that back and forth. Maybe a bunch of home game wins. But why I do think Minnesota is more. I don't think Phoenix has a shot against Denver. Zero, zip, nada. And again, those three guys, whatever, could always prove you wrong. But that's my take. Minnesota, I'm not sure that they have a chance either. I don't know that they can score enough. But if you gave truth serum, you might even not even need to give truth serum to Jokic and Murray and all those guys. And you said who is the team you want to play the least in the West? I think they would tell you Minnesota, because that matchup is, they have the weird pieces. Yeah, to be able to they can do, remember last year when the Lakers put Rui on Jokic and they had the one good game and they said that's what solved. We solved Jokic, and they lost the game and Jokic went nuts, but they solved him, right? So but Minnesota can do that more effectively because they can put a big 7-footer in Cat on Jokic, and then they have the defensive player of the year, not just AD. They have the defensive player of the year roaming off of Aaron Gordon, plus all these dudes out on the perimeter with Jay McDaniels is huge and Ant is huge. So they have the pieces to actually slow down Denver, I think, a little bit. Now, can they score? I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be the thing.
I do think that then again, thinking ahead to the second round, I think they can get a couple games off of Denver. So even if they lose, it benefits us in our playoff drafts because it's not going to be a sweep like maybe the Lakers will be.
Yeah, that outline right there is exactly probably why I'm like the most high right now on the Thunder and the Mavericks for that reason. Because I do think my only concern is that they make quick work of them. Because if Kawhi's not good to go, Dallas should run them over. But that second round series, I feel like, is going to be a dogfight, and whoever gets through that is, I don't think they can take down. I think Denver's going to go to the finals. I think Denver's just too good. But man, if you told me that I got to the conference finals round and I had like a Luka, Kyrie still alive, like that feels pretty fun. Or the Thunder. I mean, that is their offense, is Shea, Chet, J-Dub, and now Giddey, who has arrived in the last like month or so. It's nice knowing you would have like that whole core together, and they avoid Denver until they get to the conference finals. I think that's what makes them really nice.
I do think as we talk through this, that's what I start thinking about, is like the like kind of one-off Celtic thing that we talked about, and then going over here and being like, all right, can I get Luka, Derek White? Like, even if I don't want to skip Kyrie, ideally I'd find a way to fit Kyrie in there, but can I get Luka, one of those other Celtics? And you're probably not getting KP, but like, who knows? Maybe you get in a draft where KP falls. It's probably Derek White, right? And then can I get Kyrie and like give me 4 Mavs?
Yeah.
And then the Derek White thing or whatever, or doing it with the Thunder, like you said. Like, can I do and just be like, look, I'm down to bet on one of those. One of them's going to make in my opinion, probably make the conference finals.
Right.
So like, I'm going to get real close here to having a mega shot to win this. And I'm not hurt by the Celtics, like this expectation of them not playing a lot of games. It doesn't hurt me.
Right. I've got a few that are, I started with 3 guards and then didn't draft another one, where I started Luka, Brunson, Kyrie. And then I was like, I'm going to get PJ and Gafford at some point.
Yep.
I think I threw Al Horford into that. I was like, there's my Celtic. I'm sure I drafted Paolo or Siakam, because I'm looking at my numbers now and it looks like I did that almost every draft. I got one of them and threw them in there too. And it was like, okay, hopefully these are the guys that can like hold my roster up if like the Thunder don't. I mean, I'm sorry, if the Mavs like have a short series or something like that. But having all of those one-offs with the Mavs build, yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying those ones.
Just the last couple things, and then we're going to hop into a dance draft. Bobby says the Mavs feel this is kind of why I think my brain is broken, but this is kind of why I like drafting the Mavs, is because I feel like everybody likes Luka. Who the hell doesn't like Luka? But you're not getting a bunch, despite all this shit we've just said about like the pool is drying up, like guys are getting removed and we don't know who to add in. You want Celtics, but the West is wide open. The Mavs aren't really getting more expensive.
No.
And the secondary Mavs are not getting more, and Luka can only get some more expensive. He goes in the top 5. I can then just get Mavs more than half the time when I want, give or take, right? I can get a Mavs stack, including Luka, almost whenever I want. That feels pretty awesome to me because, again, going back to my bracket, I think like if you put using the truth serum, if you gave me truth serum, I would pick the Nuggets to make it. But I think the Mavs are the most dangerous team other than the Nuggets in the West. A little bit of recency bias, but since the trade deadline, I think PJ and Gafford were amazing pickups Amazing pickups to them. And then they got healthy right around that. Exum, I'm a Dante Exum fan. I love just what he brings. But in the playoffs, I think guys like him are going to be useful. Exum, Derek Jones Jr., right? I don't know if Josh Green's even going to play in the playoffs, but that tells you something.
Yeah.
Last year, they needed Josh Green to be like their 3-and-D guy on the wing. Yeah. He may not be in the rotation this year in the playoffs because of these additions, because Luke and Kyrie are cooking. I just think that they like – if Denver didn't answer my question before about who do you not want to see, it being Minnesota, they would definitely say Dallas.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I'm all in on Dallas. I love the Dallas. Dallas and the Thunder have been like my two favorite ways to build, just because I know who to pick. Like with the Knicks, you're taking Brunson, and then you're like, all right, well, I took Hart last time, so I'm taking Dante this time. Like that. You just don't. There's nothing feels good about that, except even though they were going to be out there for 55 minutes a game. But with Dallas, I'm like, all right, I know exactly who I'm supposed to pick and in the order that I want to pick them.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have to think when I draft the other teams.
Right.
When I draft the Knicks, I do have to. I'm pretty certain it's Hartenstein right now, but like if you told me Tibbs went to Mitrov in the playoffs, would I be that surprised? Like not really. So 100% agree. All right, one last thing, then we're gonna do this draft. Tomorrow's games. Is there any meaning at all to you? Is anything coming from this?
I just think the funniest outcome would be the Pels winning, because it was like Zion's been ruled out, and now everyone's like, "Oh man, gonna get my Sabonis Fox." Like, what if Trey Murphy's the guy you need? So I just feel like that would be the funniest outcome if that happens. But I do think the Bulls are gonna win. I mean, if Jimmy Butler's really not playing, like I think they're gonna be pretty deflated. And I think the Bulls don't get blown out, and they don't blow anybody out. It's gonna be a close game. I don't know. Like I kind of lean Chicago, but I don't think it matters. I don't think you can draft anybody on Miami anymore. Like I don't think you can do it. And like I was saying, you can click DeRozan in the 10th round if you want to, but I'm honestly just doing it because I have so much Zion and I'm trying to get somebody else.
That's my problem. We skated around the Pels thing until this very moment, but that was one of my. Yeah, I thought I don't feel bad about it, and like I said, it played out exactly how I wanted it. I'm like, get the 8 seed, play the Thunder, even if you lose. I'm going to advance a shit ton of teams because I'm going to get like 6 Zion games. And if everybody watched the game the other night, that's a lot of goddamn fantasy points.
It's brutal. I am just under 30% Zion. I got 20 Ingram. I was doing so many 2-mans. I got like 15 CJ. Like it's brutal.
So we get the 106. So we're going to be figuring out that JB, Porzingis, Embiid, Ant.
I didn't even ask you. Have you been like in that spot? Are you going JB Porzingis a lot? No,
I've been getting funky there. I'm open to it. I'm more open to it now and doing some of the things that we talked about there. Like, how do I get all the Suns? Like, can I do this and get all the Suns type of a situation? Or even if you get all of Minnesota without Ant, I don't know.
I think it's a little bit better now only because of like, I did not like Jaylen Brown going as high as he was going.
No.
But because Embiid falls to us, right? We got
I think we got to take Embiid. So then do we use Embiid to try to push Celtics to take KP and then come back to the West? Or do you want to take like Ant or Murray or?
I think I would go Ant. I think I would go Embiid Ant. Only because even though this doesn't really answer that question, I was like, I don't really like starting big. But also, again, the wing position. But no, I like this. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like Jaylen Brown's actually kind of a better pick now that the wings have been murdered. Like now it's like he's actually pretty valuable at this point.
His 35 points don't feel as bad when all the guys who are going to score 60 aren't playing anymore.
I know. Have you read anything about Kawhi? Like, I feel like all I saw was that Kawhi participated in a quarter of practice, which I thought was an insane report. But
it was an absolutely hilarious. We got the specificity of which we've gotten reports this playoffs, like the Giannis calf strain reporting going. So like, I didn't know that calves have all these different like sections in them or whatever, and like learning about it was this one like they got so specific about exactly which part of his calf it was, and I'm like, I just thought it was a calf, man. Like I didn't know the difference. And the same thing, like usually it's Kawhi practiced or he did not practice, right? It was he participated in a quarter of practice. I'm like, well, since when? Normally we don't get any goddamn reporting in the NBA. Now we're getting this insane level of detail. So I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with Kawhi. I think if they play, as excited as I am for the Mavs, if he plays and he's fine, I would not be stunned to see them win in 5 games.
I know,
because
right?
They are, when they're at their best. We saw that, right? When they had the insane run during the regular season, they can beat anybody. They can beat the bricks off of anybody. They did it without Kawhi. What was it, 34-5 against Phoenix in the first quarter or whatever? They can be that good, but I don't want to bet on them if there's no Kawhi, not against Dallas.
I don't hate Paul George one-off either from that wing spot. Because, even if, just because, again, how thin it is, and if Kawhi's not going to play.
You can always bolt on Zoo.
Yeah.
At the end, if you if you want another Clipper to set something up.
Even Russ, too. If you really think Kawhi's not going to go, I clicked him. But yeah, Zoo's nice because he's just like a reliable big.
He's going to score some fantasy points. He can get run off the floor in the fourth quarter. It is what it is. But it's not like Joe Val level. It's not going to be Valanciunas where he plays 7 minutes because they go to Larry Nance. Zoo's going to get his 22, 24 minutes even if he doesn't close the game. All right. About to be back on the clock. We took Embiid and Ant. So we see Maxey here coming up. Then we have KD and, of course, Kawhi, MPJ, J-Dub, Gobert. I mean, it looks like if we want to take our 2 secondary pieces here, unless you want to do something different.
No, yeah, you could talk me into J-Dub for a wing if we just to get one. But I don't know. We talked so much about getting creative with the wing position. Maybe we do that in rounds.
And I think we'll be set up to do that in the next round. I do think you can do Embiid specifically. I don't think I want to do an Ant one-off. I think if you take Ant, I think you want to build Minnesota because he's much better than Jaylen Brown, but he's not Luka and those guys. He's a clear tier below that. Whereas Embiid, I think you can do some of the stuff we talked about with a one-off Embiid where, go get West guys around him. He can push your whoever else through in your Knicks or whatever, or your Celtics through. But so we could have done, like J-Dub and done some Thunder or something right there. But with Minnesota and then doing just the way it all aligns here and what we talked about with some guys that are going to be upcoming, Pacers, Magic, all that, I think it made a little more sense to just stay the course.
I see Michael Porter Jr. there. Are you drafting Nuggets if you don't have Jokic?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, me neither.
That's one of my biggest takes probably. Yeah. And I tend to think most people do that too much. They'll do it with Tatum. I know they're not doing it in that because of the JB KP thing, but in past years, they would say, I'm taking Tatum in the first round. If I don't, I'm not interested in Porzingis or Drew or whatever.
Right.
And I don't really think that's true for Boston. I think Jokic is that dude that he goes first overall. He's on the best team. He's going to score 75 a night. If Denver advances and teams are getting there, right? Getting to the finals or whatever, it's gonna be him. It's just gonna be him.
And I mean I love Jamal Murray. He's one of my favorite players. But maybe it's because I started drafting early. I just know how many Jokic Murray builds happened. Early on that I'm I just don't see a world in which Murray being my best Nugget and they go to the finals. I don't see a world in which I'm outscoring anybody unless I miraculously got a big Celtic stack with it. But it just that build doesn't happen.
What do you think about this? Are you doing any of this? Skip Gobert to play for Cat next?
I did a little bit until the matchup locked up with Phoenix, and now it made me like Rudy a little bit more. So now I'm doing it. But I did do that a couple of times just to get some different variations in Minnesota.
Painful matchup for Cat in the first round. He'll be more important in the second round. All right, back on the clock. Donovan Mitchell, PG. There is Cat here. There is Siakam.
I think Siakam should be one of them. I like getting Siakam I think he's my favorite wing out of all that, the highest probability of 2 rounds.
PG does fit this team. Of course, Cat fits this team. Let's take Siakam, and then I think it's probably Cat then we're set on the Minnesota in the finals. But you can also always double back for Conley.
Yeah,
and take PG and give ourselves Clippers outs.
I think.
I kind of like PG.
Yeah,
is that crazy?
No, I kind of like PG too. You know what? This is probably like a leak in my game. There's something about taking something about half of my picks being bigs through 6 makes me uncomfortable.
Well, especially when Embiid. You know, it's
Yeah.
if it was like Porzingis and like I don't know, but they used to be prices similar to this, and like
Right.
Jared Allen. Like if it was like Porzingis and like Jared Allen, you're like, none of these guys are going to be the winner. I just need one of them to play 7 games in
Right.
a round, you know, then it's
Right.
fine. But like you took Embiid and Gobert, like if you're not using certainly one of their scores, probably both, we're probably fucked.
Right, right. And I just know the wing drop off is so aggressive. I mean, you're looking at it now, right? It's like Middleton and Butler. I do think you can get away with Middleton one-offs, only because, like, especially if you're projecting, like, okay, the Pacers are going to win this series, but maybe it gets dragged out. No Giannis for a lot of it. Middleton's going to have to do some heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate it. It's not my favorite, but like just because of how gross this wing spot is.
Yep.
What would your third Sixer be? Like where do you prefer to go? I'm not
I think it's Oubre.
Oubre, yeah.
I think it's Oubre. Well, maybe it's Batum after last night.
Yeah, Jesus seriously.
But I just think him and Tobias are close enough, and Tobias is everyone's third option, that if I'm going to go to battle, I'm happy to flip that coin on the side of like 10% owned Kelly Oubre versus 100% owned Tobias.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that.
It would have been Melton if he came back, but
I know. I was clicking him so many times. He's like one of my favorite plays. It actually, like watching last night's game here. Sorry, we're on the clock.
Okay, not Jimmy.
Not Jimmy.
Tomas, Hart, Bam, Gafford.
God, so
Jesus, this is terrible. Do we want Russ as another?
Yeah, let's throw Russ in there.
He makes sense on the team. Conley.
Yeah, Conley would be my next favorite Timberwolf. Or again, if we didn't have Embiid and Rudy, I still like Naz Reid. I think he's going to have a role.
But I wonder if we can. I don't know if he'll be available, especially on a stream. But Miles Turner could fall back, and he would fit well with.
Oh yes,
Siakam.
That's a good call too. That's a good call too.
I think we just wrap up Conley though, and just make sure like we can play around with the finals matchups at the end. Like if it has to be Neesmith, if it has to be Nembhard or something, you know, like I don't want to take those guys, but if it has to be, we have options. I don't really want to take Jaden McDaniels. And Nas is okay.
Yeah, I like Oubre though. As for our 9th pick, I like throwing Oubre in there. Oh, but I was gonna say after watching last night's game, if Melton really isn't gonna come back, I mean, like, is Lowry gonna get like real playoff minutes?
I mean, he's starting, which is absolutely insane.
I know. I'm not gonna click it. I just was like, I forgot he was there.
How many minutes did he play? It felt like a lot.
It did feel like a lot. I think they kept him out of the game for a lot of the fourth, and then I think he came in for that like last few minutes. But
did you see just quickly? You remember when Jimmy did the Tobias Harris over me thing when he was leaving? When Kyle Lowry did it last night.
I didn't see that. That's incredible.
Oh my God, who did they keep or who did they add over him or whatever? He did.
Terry Rozier, right?
Rozier, yeah, Terry Rozier over me as he was walking to the locker room. It was great.
God, shout out Kyle Lowry.
He is Zach Lowe always calls him a fire hydrant.
Yeah,
and it impresses me every single. Like, there's like big dudes, and he doesn't flinch when they run into him. It is wild.
Oh, he's enormous.
This is I was gonna mention this. So that's where Oubre comes into play for us here for that finals matchup, which I think works.
Yeah, I think so too. I just can't. I mean, I think I've clicked Kyle Anderson a couple times for the wing, but it just feels like such a wasted pick.
Yeah. I mean, it also is like you're 100% just building for the last guy in your lineup in the finals, which never feels very good. So we definitely want to take Oubre with one of these. And then we've got 2 Clippers, so that's nice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still open.
There is
Turner
Miles.
If he's there. Yeah.
I kind of think that's pretty clean.
Yeah,
I would
like
say
that.
Oubre, Miles Turner gives us 3 Philly, 3. This is beautiful. This gives us four finals matchups. The 3 Sixers, Embiid, Maxey, and Oubre, and then the 3 Minnesota guys, Ant, Gobert, and Conley, with Siakam and Miles Turner, and PG and Russ. So that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
I like it. Yeah, I think that from that 6 spot, I just think it makes way more sense to build for upside. I mean, I know the Jaylen Brown Porzingis clicks feel safe, but I just don't know how much upside it's got. Unless you can guarantee yourself a final spot, then it's nice. But
yeah, but even then, like, think about it. If Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis starts are the teams that you want to have in the finals, how many teams are going to be there in that finals? Because how many of these drafts have that combination? Whether it's some people take it 5 and 7 or 4 and 7 and then 5 and 6. It's so common that it's just hard for me to see. I would rather do Tatum. Like I would just rather, like, I'm not personally passing on Tatum, but I am I would rather lean away from that. And I think we did a good job also of like, how do you navigate all the shit we talked about? Like, how do you navigate the Celtics thing? How do you navigate this wing chaos?
Yeah.
How do you navigate like the fact that the player pool is drying up? It's like, well, come on down, Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, I know our wing stuff really is gross. Like I think we're banking on we need a long Clippers Mavs series. Or not even long, but we just need Paul George to help us get along. And then Siakam. We need Siakam to cook.
Which I think it's a pretty good way to put, like, pick 31 PG.
Yeah.
Especially if there's no Kawhi. I'm more than comfortable with that. Pick 30 Siakam. We talked about that one as kind of a strategic angle right now, especially. But just in general, I love the Pacers. I mentioned that's my first round biggest bet. I think also I bet Indy to win game 1 and to win the series was like plus 300 fun. Was like plus 300 or something like that. Cause they were opened at like they opened as favorites. So riddle me this, Batman. I understand that Giannis is, supposed to come back. How can Indy be road favorites in game 1 and dogs to win the series? Like that doesn't make any sense.
That's so dumb. So they're like, we don't think you can win your first game at home, but we do think you can win 4 out of 6 or whatever it would be. It's
with a bunch of them on the road.
Yeah.
Doesn't make
I think sense. I haven't fired it yet, but I kind of want to do like a parlay of the Pacers to win the series and the Magic to win the series. I think I'm dying on the Magic hill.
Magic are pretty big dogs too, so that'll be juicy.
Yeah.
That'll be real juicy.
I really thought everybody that was going to be kind of a pick'em situation, and I've never felt dumber so far. We're like every podcast I've listened to, it's like, yeah, probably Cavs in 5. I'm like, damn it,
I fell for 2 things. We'll wrap on some things maybe we changed our minds on, and then I'm gonna press Mike on the some finals predictions and stuff. I fell for the Clippers. Okay, amidst the run, I was casual fan, casual Joe Schmo fan. Like, this is it. They did it. They put it all together. Fine, right? The Clippers, Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football, yet again. And now I'm out. So now they'll win. Yeah. Because I gave up on them, and I fell for the Cavs bullshit during the Donovan Mitchell scorched earth run without Garland and Mobley, and then of course the good players come back and the team and the team gets worse. And so I'm more on the Magic side to you. I just think it's like this. They're 2 of the same team.
Yeah.
Defense first, can't really score. One team is playing well. One team has never been able to figure out how to play well together. And people are really just riding with like the known,
well, that's what kind of like,
the Thunder thing. The Thunder are much better, but it's the Thunder thing. People are going to pick against the Thunder because it's the young team they don't feel comfortable with.
And listen, if the Magic were a team that were scoring 125 a game, shooting like 40% from 3, and that's how they got, the Magic, if that's how they got here, I would be on the same page. But like the style of play that they already can't score. So it's not like they're going to stop scoring in the playoffs. They already can't do that, but their defense is going to come with them. And so, I don't know. I think they're going to be doing some weird stuff. I think we're going to start seeing like when the Cavs only have one big out there, do they just throw Jonathan Isaac in at the 5? Like, I think we're going to see some weird Magic stuff. I think JB Bickerstaff's about to get out coached. I don't think no one's talked about that. So I don't know. But now I'm just like drinking the hopium of my Paolo and Franz bag. So
I like it. Yeah. I like it. Was there anything that you have changed? Here's my 2-part question to close. Yeah. Anything that you have like other than Magic, like kind of been like my Clippers thing is like I was in when this contest opened, I was give me Kawhi and PG and Harden, and now I'm like give me the Mavs because they're playing the Clippers. And then let's hear kind of how's this playoffs going to play out? Is it the chalky Celtics Nuggets, or what are you thinking?
So I was really out on, I shouldn't say I was out. I thought Minnesota, and I know they ended up finishing 3 seed, but I thought they were going to be like 4 to 7. Like that's kind of where I thought they were going to be this year. And so I know they're the 3 seed, but that's like a fake 3 seed. They might as well have been the 1 seed. They were like right there the whole time. I didn't see that coming. And I did come around on that. And I feel like I came around just in time for everyone to be like, yeah, they're a dog in the first round with the Suns team that I refused to get on board with. So I feel like either way, I'm going to get hurt in this first round series. But yeah, I was not a Minnesota believer. And I mean, I liked Ant. I thought everybody was getting way too excited about him too early. I was like, congrats. Like the FIBA run was cool, but it was a FIBA run. So I was like, let's relax.
And we lost.
And we lost. He
was great. He was great, but like the team didn't do very well. I don't think we should crown him the next Michael Jordan.
But he's been awesome. Like I did come around on that. He's been awesome. And then the one fun one I had, I had the Thunder is like, I think last March, I tweeted out, I was like, the Thunder are going to host a playoff series next year. Like I was like, I've retweeted that so many times, just like, try to get that clout up. But so I really don't want to see them flame out in the first. I don't think they're going to. I just want them to have a good playoff run because if they get bounced in the second round to Luka, I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh, they're broken, So I want them to show up. That team's so fun. So fun. So that's.
Can you imagine having 12 first-round picks in the next few years and the 1 seed and all of that young talent? And I mean, my God, what a time to be.
They're just waiting for someone to be mad, right? They're just like waiting for a superstar to be mad, and then they're like, "Here's Giddey, Dort, and 42 picks."
Yeah, exactly. And they can be so picky. It's like, like Donovan Mitchell might already be mad, and they can just say, "You're a third team All NBA. You're not good enough for us."
It's gonna be Giannis, Embiid. It's gonna be somebody like that. And I mean, I don't even know if they'd go, but like I know Cat's gonna be all over the market soon. And it's like they don't need. They're like, nah, we're good. Yeah. We'll wait for somebody better.
Isn't that the crazy thing? Is all these so Cat, probably Trey. Those kind of second, I don't know if I call them stars, right? But secondary stars in the media's eyes are going to all be available, right? Because the teams are assuming, unless Minnesota makes a run, well, Minnesota has financial issues.
Yeah, whether they make a run or not,
they have a lot of issues. But like Trey, right, is going to be a lot of these teams don't have. There's nothing they can do. But the next star that's available, they got the Suns had to go get Beal because you have no other options. You can't wait, whatever. And the Thunder just get to sit back and be like, that superstar isn't quite good enough of a superstar for us. Yeah. What a beautiful spot to be.
Right. They're just going to be like, you're going to be more desperate than we are, So I'll let you bring the value down, and then maybe we'll come back to the table.
That's the Jazz are trying to be the next Thunder, but that was a ton. That was pick. Who's playing in the finals? Who's winning?
Oh, I'm going to take the Celtics into the finals from the East. I don't want to be boring and say Celtics Denver. I just think they are like clearly the 2 best teams. And I know Denver kind of limped around there down the stretch, but I think we're going to be reminded pretty quickly how good Denver is. And I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they do another thing where they're like, yeah, we lose 1 game in this series, 1 game in this series, sweep this series. And then I think the Celtics can hang with Denver. I think the Celtics are the only team. Well, I think they have the best shot at taking down Denver out of everybody in the East and the West. I think they're built to hang with them, but I think I'm gonna take. We'll just Denver in 6 probably over the Celtics is what I would do.
I like that when you got that big man from Serbia. So it is just unstoppable.
Jamal Murray's different in the playoffs too. Like he is. He's just he's a god. He's so good.
He doesn't get it's especially if they win another one this year and he plays well, he'll start to get his flowers. But it's like playoff Jimmy is a well-known thing, and playoff Jimmy is unbelievable. Look, I love Jimmy Butler. Maybe one of my favorite players in the league. Playoff Jamal will be a thing if he keeps doing what he's doing.
His numbers are crazy.
All right, Mike. Everybody knows, most people probably know Team Hold, but what do you got coming up? Playoffs, big
playoffs,
big time for you guys.
So we do a daily show Monday through Friday at 9 over on our YouTube channel at Team Hold Live. We're actually starting I'm in New York, and I'm a Liberty fan. I get to go to the WNBA draft this week. We're starting a show heading into the NBA offseason. We're doing our first episode of that tonight, where I'm not an expert in the W, so I'm bringing on people who are much smarter than me to come talk about it. So we're going to do that on Thursdays. But yeah, just you follow us on Team Hold or follow me on Twitter at Mike Zakarian, and we'll keep you posted.
Awesome. We'll see if the playoffs go well. Hopefully, Mike and I, maybe we'll have a team like this one that we just drafted that has a sweat. We'll get back together and chop it up. Thank you guys for joining us. That is the show. We're going to try to see. I'm going to try to see if I can get another draft or two show in before the playoffs kick off. But if not, good luck. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Ooh, those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.